Hey there, my equally inquisitive friends. I just got through watching the Secret Service Director, Kim Cheadle, testify to the House Oversight Committee in Congress. And if you're curious on how many of my questions I got answered, if you can read everything on that page, that's how many questions I got answered. If you're curious how many things I have questions of now, it's that many. After listening to her testimony. That's right, I took 4.5 pages of notes listening to this clown. Let me get into some of the more pertinent things that were said, maybe some gray areas that were somewhat filled in for us. The number one question, for those of you that don't want to watch the whole video, my whole reason for watching this entire 3 to 4 hour testimony by this woman was I wanted to know about the building. That's all I wanted to know about, because if you answer the questions related to that building that Crooks was allegedly on, then I'm able to answer most of my own questions and fill in most of the blanks that have been created up to now. We did not get that answer. So let me go through everything else. Cheadle mentioned that that building that Crooks, the alleged shooter, was on was, quote, outside the perimeter. Those were her words, not mine. She said that a building with a clear line of sight to former President Donald Trump with nothing in between, not so much as a tree, a twig, a light pole, anything, was not inside the security perimeter of the Secret Service. So I immediately know that she's lying, likely the rest of the time, because that's not true. The security perimeter, and most people will tell you this, you don't have to be a frickin' sniper or some kind of Overwatch overlord to know that you look at the ballistics of a particular round, of any modern rifle out there, just any rifle that can potentially make a certain shot. And that is your security perimeter. You don't just assume, I doubt anybody's going to want to use that rifle, but you dismiss the fact that we're not even talking about 1,000 yards. 1,000 yards would have been like, well, maybe that takes a certain kind of person to be able to make at least a headshot at 1,000 yards. That's a special person. That's not the average everyday guy that's going to do that. And I know there's guys out there going to go, I can make that all day long. I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can. The average gun owner ain't making 1,000-yard shots all day long. They're just not. But what's the most popular firearm in America today? Rifle, anyway. What's the most popular rifle? An AR-15, without a doubt. There's no hesitation there. I know that's what it is. I don't need to look at statistics. I don't need to read anything to know that the most popular rifle is an AR-15. The AR-15 has an effective shot range between, if you're using a 5.56 round, between 500 and 600 yards. That's just a given. That's a known fact. This place was 140 yards away. So why would you not, even if you want to dismiss the 1,000-yard shooter that's capable of making that shot, why would you dismiss people having access to and owning the most popular rifle in America and not looking at those odds? Just the freaking odds of that is enough to make me go, that needs to be secured. And they chose not to. Outside the perimeter. No, that building's outside the perimeter. She gave no answer on whether or not drones were used. She gave no answer on shooter using his drone, even though we know the shooter did have a drone out there. She gave no answer on the number of agents out there. She gave no answer on the number of temporary agents out there. We know that some were hired. She gave no answer on constructing shooter's last days. She did not even know what the shooter had been doing in his last days. And one of the biggest things that really perplexed me and really makes me wonder how these people can function in a modern society whenever sometimes common sense is actually employed. She was asked multiple times about the shooter being a suspicious person. Now, this is, you have to pay attention to the words that I'm going to use, because I'm using the words purposely that she used, because these are technical terms that they use within their little circle. She said that the person, Crooks, was identified as suspicious, right? Well, why didn't you engage him? Because he was suspicious. Well, okay, he was suspicious, but You didn't have thousands of suspicious people out there. You had one guy that was suspicious. Why didn't you engage him, follow him, whatever? Because he wasn't a threat. Those two words mean different things to them. And I guess they do technically have different dictionary meanings. But suspicious is a technical term they use of not a threat. A threat is one, engage him. They never saw that changeover between suspicion and threat. In fact, when somebody pressed her on it later in the day, she actually said, the question they posed to her was, the counter sniper that ended up, according to them, shooting Crooks, at what point did he determine that he went from a suspicious person to a threat? You know what she said? Minutes before that. They called her out on it as I was calling her out on it on my live stream. That's a lie. Trump had been shot, and for a good 9 to 15 seconds, depending on what you want to use, before Crooks was taken out. So the only way for him to cross over from suspicious to a threat was to fire a shot at innocent people, including the former president of the United States, and to murder a man, and then he became a threat. Prior to that, on a roof, people pointing him out with a gun pointed in the direction of the former president of the United States, suspicious person. Bang, 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 threat. Now they take him out. Those are her words, not mine. She went on to say that Trump was brought on stage knowing that they had a suspicious person, but because he was not considered a threat, quote unquote, they felt like he was safe, even though they had already identified a suspicious person that they were watching who had a rifle. Now, one of the other points I want to make out that was clarified in this, and again, there was some useful stuff. I guess I should go back to my original statement saying I didn't get any answers. I did get one. I put a video out yesterday that talked about DNA, and my questions were, how could they use this guy's DNA that he so eloquently shared on top of that building? How could they use that to track this guy down so fast? Within a matter of hours, not even a couple hours, they knew who he was. You want to know why? Because they really didn't do that. Now, they claim that they used his DNA and traced his DNA. I showed the proof of that. Several headlines on several mainstream media outlets made the exact same claim. That's not how they identified Crooks. According to the director's testimony in this hearing, they used the illegal ATF registry in order to locate Crooks' dad, in essence, find Crooks, right? So she admits that in here, that it was the ATF tracing of that rifle that they found at the scene, tracing back to the father who had bought it 13 years prior. Or no, I'm sorry, not 13 years prior. In 2013, he purchased it. And then they traced, obviously, the dad's the owner. Crooks is the kid. They went to the parents' house and found out that was him. So DNA had nothing to do with it. That was just a lie that was put out right away. Flat out lie. So we're going to do our best, as I try to do, to debunk all the lies. I'm never going to know most of what happened because I don't have that type of information from these people. But that was a lie. It was the illegal ATF registry. And if you guys, there's two ways to look at it. The ATF has already been busted with almost a billion records of firearm purchases, 4473s, background checks that they have scanned and they have in an illegal registry in their own database. They've admitted to that through FOIA requests. They didn't admit it. They were forced to say that through FOIA requests. The other type of registry they have is any gun, and they will deny this, but I know that it works because I was actually a part of one of these one time, is that anytime a gun winds up at a crime scene, they grab the gun, they trace the serial number. Say it's a Smith & Wesson, right? They take the serial number off the Smith & Wesson, they contact Smith & Wesson, the ATF does. The Smith & Wesson folks tell them what dealer they sold that serial numbered gun to, right? Then they contact that dealer. Then that dealer says what gun store they sold that gun to. And then the gun store has your 4473 that they have to keep for however long in their own possession. And then they go into their 4473s and they tell them the pertinent information of that particular person. So either they had Crooks' information in their existing illegal database or they traced it like I just described. Now, she was asked about the DEI hirings that she's been making. She's literally on record. I mean, I showed the video of it where she made the commitment to make the Secret Service 30% female, right? On record, under oath, denied, saying that she did not say that 1/3 of her workforce would be women. Boy, these people are slick. These people are so slick. She's under oath. She knows it. When they asked her about 1/3 of the workforce, she said, I never said that. You know why she never said that? Because 1/3 is not 30%. 1/3 is 33.333333333. They carry that decimal out forever. So she knows that she will not be perjured by saying that, even though she knows she was saying on record, on television, on video, of saying that I want 30% of the workforce to be female. When he asked 1/3, he was wrong because it did not include the decimal points, and she did not perjure herself. Very slick how these people testify. They are very careful about what they say, and they will lie, and people will go, oh, well, see, she said she never said that. She did say that there was one shot by the counter sniper, but whenever they asked about the spent brass on the roof, she said she was told how many spent casings were on the roof by the FBI. But she couldn't tell this committee. She is a ranking member in the federal government. She has the information that she was subpoenaed to come talk about. And she admitted under oath that she knew how many casings, spent brass, were on the roof with crooks. She would not tell this committee. When they asked her about whether or not Crooks was acting alone, she did not say no. She said she could not talk about that and referred them to the FBI. If she knew if he was acting alone, doesn't it put the American people, or at least people asking the questions, at ease if she says, I can emphatically tell you without a doubt that this guy acted alone and he was the only threat that day? But she couldn't answer that. And she referred you and whomever else, ask the FBI. They know. I know, but I'm not going to tell you. Ask the FBI. And this next thing really blew my mind because we've all been asking, when the people were on the side of the building talking about Crooks, where he was, how come that didn't raise up any red flags? How come that didn't get any additional attention on Crooks? How did this make it from point A to point B at that point with Trump being shot eventually? You want to know what her explanation was as far as radio communication that day? First of all, even though they have radio recordings on all other events, guess what they don't have on this event? Radio recordings. That's right. She admitted that they have recordings of radio communication on all other Secret Service events. This one, they don't have that. You want to know something else regarding radios? We've been asking the question about communication between local law enforcement that she's thrown under the bus and about the Secret Service agents. Guess how they communicated at Trump's event? Tell me this is not like cavemen having a cup with strings in between them, right? There is a room that they call their security room. Inside that security room, the Secret Service agents have a base radio where anybody in the room can listen to the communication of these Secret Service agents. They invite one local law enforcement agent into that room also to hear the Secret Service radio communication. And in turn, this person will communicate if there's anything from their team, the local law enforcement team. So they're not on the same frequency. They're not listening to each other on the radio. You have two different radios in a room, each playing whatever the communication is, each sounding that out. And the other person, if the Secret Service hears something on the other frequency that they need to communicate to their team, they do that. And then the local team does the same. If the Secret Service radio says something that they need to communicate to their people, they do that. That's how these two groups of people communicated with each other. Again, cups and strings might have been equally effective in this case. The question about that building. Who was on top of the building? Who was watching the building? This lady made comments that that building was watched. She said that even though they didn't have anybody on the building, that they had somebody watching the roof of that building. You tell me, if they had somebody watching the roof of that building, the most logical place for somebody to stage themselves or an assassin to take a shot at the former president, then who screwed up? Was he taking a dump the one guy they put to watch that entire roof, the key, most valuable real estate in the whole place, one guy was supposed to watch? Is that what you're telling me? Or did whoever was watching that building let crooks get up there? Because it is one of those two things. Either you did not have overwatch on the roof of that building, or you did, and you allowed a person with a backpack, with an AR-15, to climb on top, get into position, and take a shot at the former president. Finally, the last thing that I want to point out is that, and I have plenty of other stuff. I may just write this all up and put it out there online so you guys can read through all of my notes, because I didn't want to make the video that long if I can help it. The final thing was, get this, you're not going to believe this. This director, who this whole debacle falls under her. All of it does. Indirectly, directly, it's all her responsibility. When asked if she had been to Butler, Pennsylvania, which is driving distance from her office, you know what her answer was? In 9 days, she has not had a chance to be there. She's not been to Butler, Pennsylvania. She's not been to one of the most historical sites going forward in the American history. She's not even been there yet. The site of the crime. If you were going to investigate yourself and tell me what you did wrong, would you not maybe go there? Maybe go to the crime scene for, if nothing else, for a photo op, to act like you gave a crap. Maybe you would go. Very, very unusual. In fact, she made it to the Republican National Convention in Wisconsin, which was a plane ride days prior to that, after the shooting. And she got run out of there, of course, but still couldn't hop in her car or get in one of her government-funded cars with government gasoline and have a government employee drive her to this site in Pennsylvania from Washington, D.C. Crooks has been to this site twice. The director of the Secret Service has been there 0 times. Why are we talking to her in an oversight committee? We need to be talking on the boots on the ground over there. Not that we would get any more questions answered, but we clearly were talking to the wrong person. This is a political appointee in the best way I can describe it, a tactical position. Do you understand what I'm saying? This type of position is a tactical position that making the wrong decision and making the wrong move can get people killed. But we have a political appointee in there, a DEI hire, a token hire, in a tactical position. She is meant to make some very serious decisions that either protects or puts people's lives at risk. Yet she has politicized it. And this person needs to go. Now, I don't think this person will bow out gracefully. At this point, she has been told to shut up. Your job is protected. You will be fine. Just shut up. Because they do have something they're hiding. If they don't want us to have conspiracy theories, then debunk them and tell us what happened. It's really that easy. There's no additional ongoing investigation because your criminal supposedly is dead. So anything you have to share puts no case at risk unless there's somebody else involved. That's it. That is it. If no one else is involved, your case is over. You can still investigate it if you want to, but an investigation is not at risk. But this person, I believe now, will be forced to. I think she'll still resign, but she'll be forced to resign. Again, I think she was protected before, but she's gotten so much attention focused on her and so much is pointed at her right now, taken off of everybody else. Nobody else who's responsible is taking any heat right now. It's just Cheadle. I believe now they will come to her and say, look, we know we told you can't lose your job as long as you shut up, but guess what? You will help all of us out if you resign. So now that we can say it was her fault and she's gone, right? It's their way to say problem solved because she's gone. If she stays, then everybody else eventually gets started asking. They get questions asked of them. Hey, what happened? What happened? At least if they get rid of her or ask her to resign, force her to resign, and reward her handsomely, I might add. She'd be very handsomely rewarded going forward. Trust me, this woman will retire a very wealthy person. But if they're able to shove her out of the picture, now it's plausible deniability for everybody else because, hey, guess what? The bad person's gone. See, we fixed it. So we're a better organization now because we don't have Cheetah with us. Watch for her to voluntarily resign. And then guess what? Let's look at her bank account a year from now. I guarantee you somebody was rewarded handsomely.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was